January 897, Rome. A church courtroom, the judges are assembled, the charges are ready, and the defendant is seated on a throne dressed in the full sacred vestments of the papacy. There is one procedural irregularity. The defendant has been dead for 7 months. The pope has exhumed the previous pope, dressed the corpse for court, and put it on trial. There is a teenager hiding behind the throne to speak for the body. Every word of this is real, and it is somehow about to get worse. This is Oops History, true stories that sound fake. Today, the Cadaver Synod, the lowest moment in the 2,000-year history of the papacy, by the Church's own admission. Context first. The 890s were the papacy's absolute rock bottom, an era historians literally call the nadir. Rome was a knife fight between noble families, and the papacy was the prize. Popes were installed and removed like seasonal staff. In one stretch, there were 9 popes in about 10 years. Being elected pope in this decade had roughly the life expectancy of a mayfly with enemies. And the biggest, scariest family on the board were the Dukes of Spoleto, who treated the throne of St. Peter as their private HR department. Enter Pope Formosus. By the standards of the age, a genuinely capable man, experienced diplomat, respected bishop, elected pope in 891. His fatal flaw, he crossed the Spoleto family. Being crowned emperor adjacent was the family business, and Formosus, boxed in by their power, secretly invited a rival, Arnulf, a Frankish king, to march on Rome and be crowned emperor instead. It worked, briefly. Then Arnulf had a stroke, the plan collapsed, and in 896 Formosus did the one thing you cannot take back. He died of natural causes, with the Spoleto family still furious at him. The throne eventually passed to Stephen VI, a man installed with Spoleto backing, and by every account we have, a man with a grudge the size of the Colosseum. Whether Stephen was settling the family's scores, his own, or both, historians still argue. What's not in dispute is what he did next. Stephen looked at the problem, my enemy is already dead and beyond punishment, and said, not with that attitude. In January 897, on Stephen's orders, the body of Pope Formosus, dead and buried for about 7 months, was dug up, carried into the basilica dressed in full papal vestments, and propped on a throne to stand trial before a synod of assembled clergy. The charges: perjury, coveting the papacy, and violating church law by transferring between bishoprics. Legally fascinating, biologically insane. The trial itself is the stuff of legend. Stephen VI personally prosecuted, and by contemporary accounts, he screamed at the corpse, raved at it, mocked it, demanded it answer for its crimes. And because canon law required the accused to have a defense, a teenage deacon was assigned to crouch behind the throne and answer in the dead pope's voice. Let me repeat that. A teenager's job, his assigned official church job, was to be the voice of a 7-month-old corpse in open court, while the most powerful man in Rome shrieked at both of them. The deacon wisely kept the corpse's answers brief and apologetic. It remains history's single worst improv gig. The verdict, and I hope you're sitting down, was guilty on all counts. The synod declared Formosus had been unworthy of the papacy, and every act of his pontificate was annulled retroactively. Then came sentencing, because yes, they sentenced the corpse. The 3 fingers of his right hand, the fingers of blessing, the ones a pope uses to consecrate, were hacked off. The papal vestments were stripped. The body was reburied in a common pauper's grave. And then days later, it was dug up again. Second exhumation for those counting, and thrown into the river Tiber. The papacy did not just convict a dead man, it kept escalating against him after the conviction, like the world's holiest road rage. And here is where the story turns, because Rome watched all of this happen, and Rome was horrified. The corpse was pulled from the Tiber by a monk or a fisherman, depending on the source, and almost immediately the rumor started. The recovered body of Formosus was performing miracles, healing the sick. Public opinion, which had tolerated a lot from its popes, drew a firm line at mutilating a corpse in a courtroom. Then God appeared to file a comment. That same year, the Basilica of St. John Lateran, the Pope's own cathedral, associated with the very synod, was severely damaged by an earthquake, collapsing in part. To 9th century Romans, this was not a coincidence. This was a review. The Almighty had seen the cadaver synod and rated it 0 stars. Stephen VI did not get to enjoy his legal victory. Within months, Rome turned on him. A revolt broke out. He was deposed, stripped of his vestments, thrown into prison, and in the summer of 897 strangled in his cell. Prosecuting a court